Okay, here we are, everyone. Welcome. I am Julius Spain, JD, many people call me. I don't know what's going on this month. Again, we went 2 months without it happening, but some of you guys and ladies are logging in, and for whatever reason, the matrix, my name is coming up. I don't know what is going on there. Maybe because we have 2 terminals in my house, but for whatever it's worth, please check your name. Make sure it does not say Julius Spain Sr. and put your name in there, okay? All right, I want to welcome everyone to our June 2020 general meeting of the NAACP, Arlington branch 7047B. We have a jam-packed agenda for you tonight. We're going to get right to it. Madams. Okay, welcome everyone. I guess no one heard anything I just said because I was running my mouth and everything was muted. It's been a crazy day. I will say I'm Julius Spain, president of Arlington branch NAACP. This is our June 2021 general meeting. Please pay strict attention to your name that's in the block here. For some odd reason, we went 2 months without this happening. For some odd reason or another, Julius Spain is showing up. I am the president, so I'm going to hold the president spot. But please rename yourselves as appropriate. With that being said, we have a jam-packed agenda for you tonight. We're going to have some fun here, get a lot accomplished. Madam Secretary, are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right, let's go ahead and start with the roll call.
All right, we have President who is present. First Vice President Kent Carter. First Vice President Kent Carter. Second Vice President Sharice Kearns. Second Vice President Sharice Kearns. Third Vice President Michael Heminger.
Present.
Treasurer Roy Austin. Treasurer Roy Austin. Assistant Treasurer Adriana Spain.
He's here, but on the phone.
I'm the Secretary, Wanda Younger, present. Assistant Secretary Dominique Jenkins. Dominique Jenkins. Executive Committee at Large, Karen Nightingale. Karen Nightingale. Executive Committee at Large, James Younger.
Present.
Executive Committee at Large, Simone Walker.
I'm present.
At Large Member, Carolyn Kane. Community Coordination, Jacob Williams.
Present.
Criminal Justice Committee, Matt Rogers. Matt Rogers. Economic Development, Megan Brew.
Present.
Environmental and Climate Justice, Gabrielle Cantor. Gabrielle Cantor. Housing, Kellen Macbeth.
Present.
Housing, Tim Dempsey.
Present.
Labor and Industry, Maya Jones. Maya Jones. Membership, Keisha Tinsley. Keisha Tinsley. Political Action, Jamie Abrams.
Present.
Political Action, Megan Razor.
Present.
Religious Affairs, Reverend Deletia Davis.
She's sick. Rosa Dunkley is coming in right now.
Okay. Scholarship, Adora Williams. Adora Williams. Scholarship, Jill DeWitt.
Present.
Special Events, Sheila Smith. Sheila Smith. Special Events, Marvin Nels.
Present.
And that concludes the roll call.
Thank you, Madam Madam Secretary. Busy day. I'm going to call for a suspension of the rules during that. The fact that we will be a bit out of order, so I'm going to seek a motion to suspend the rules for this meeting from any member of the Executive Committee.
Good evening, Mr. President. This is the third vice president. I move that we suspend the rules.
Can I get a second?
I second. Marvin.
Great. It's been properly moved and second that we suspend the rules for order of business for this meeting. Are there any questions? Are there any questions? Are there any questions? There being none, all vote in favor by saying aye.
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 All opposed have the same right. Ayes have it, motion carried. Okay, thank you, everyone. We have suspended the rules. Real quick again, for some odd reason, again, we went 2 months and this did not happen, but for some reason or another, people are logging on and it's still saying it's renaming them or naming them to Julia Spain. Please check your name. Click over to the right side of your photo. It'll ask you to rename. Please do so because we can't have this many Julia Spain seniors on the call. All right, thank you. Is our vice chair of the religious affairs here, Rosa? Did you make it with us already? Are you here?
Yes, I am.
Ma'am, could you lead us in a moment of prayer, please?
Dear Heavenly Father, once more again, God, we come to say thank you, Father God, for this day. God, we thank you for this meeting on tonight, God. Oh God, bless each and every one that's here under the sound of my voice and bless those that are not here. It's in Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Okay, real quick. We're going to continue as the agenda calls. Just a quick snapshot. Got this from the secretary. This is as of today, a look at our membership, 879. It may be off a little bit. There's some issues with Salesforce, but be that as it may, everyone on this call should know what our target goal is this year. We started out with around 500, a little bit over 500 in January. Our goal is 1,000 by December 31st. We will get there. So thank you. A lot of you, your memberships may have expired. I would urge you to go online, renew your membership. If you have any questions, email the branch and we can help you out in that regard. But membership is going well. All right. Is our treasurer on the call yet? Roy Austin, did you make it on? Okay, Roy gave me a slide, but we'll pull this up real quick. Our executive committee is not meeting until next week. That being said, we are going to share with the membership and those on the call a copy of our financials. We will not take any motions on this tonight, but this is just a snapshot of transactions that occurred during the month of May 2021. I would draw your attention to lines number 5 and 6 appropriately. We received a donation from for our PAC internship, and they'll talk more about that later on, which was earmarked. We also received a donation for our labor and industry committee as well. There are some expenditures. Take you over to the bottom right portion of the screen. You will see what we have in our savings account, which is pretty much earmarked, all of it.
Mr. President, you're on mute.
So, did you hear anything I said there, Mike?
Yeah, we heard about half of it and then it went out about 10 seconds ago.
About 10 seconds ago. Okay, so this is the report. Just look down to the bottom right. We're not accepting this report today because we needed to put it before the executive committee next week. But this is for the members to know where your money's at. Okay. All right. I'm going to take a few moments. Presidential privilege. Do we have anybody from CPRO on the call?
You do, Julius. This is Kim Klingler.
Hello, Clem. Hello, Kim. So for everyone on the call, last year during the it was just crazy last year, right? We had COVID, but we had an organization that stepped up and became a Silver Life member, and that was the Columbia Pike Revitalization Organization. And shortly thereafter, I mean, even leading up to it, we started working collaboratively on a number of things. We did some events together at NAACP, our special events team, along with Kim Klinger, who's also the executive director over there. And we were just so happy to have this partnership with an organization. So with that being said, let me just click. We want to we're going to present officially. They may have gotten this already, I'm not sure, but officially, this is the plaque, the actual plaque that comes in the mail. It's a certificate of civil life membership. This certifies that Columbia Pike Revitalization Organization is a life member of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, testifying forever to our faith in the future of all Americans in the United States and in the principles of equality and justice of the American Constitution. It witness whereof the board of directors has caused the certificate to be issued December 20th, 2020. Signed appropriately by our president, chair of our membership team at NAACP National, and chairman of the board, Leon Russell. I just want to take this moment. We actually got plaques in the mail a few days ago, a box of them, and I reached out to Kim and said, you know what, we have a surprise for you guys. Now, again, Kim and the entire CPRO team, we want to thank you for everything you've done in the community. We know that you're celebrating 35 years of organization this year. You had some events this past weekend. We really appreciate everything you and your team are doing. And I want to give you about a minute or so to say a few words. Kim?
JD, thank you so much. We really feel honored and privileged to partner with you all. It's, as you said, it's been a challenging year. We should have become members a long time ago, but this was really the perfect timing and the perfect partnership. And we're so excited to just do more with you all. I know Stephen Gregory Smith, I don't know if he's on tonight, but he does sit on your Business and Economic Development Committee. And so we're really trying to make sure we walk hand in hand and just make this community an even better place to live, work, and play. So JD, thank you so much to the entire NAACP board and to the team. We really appreciate it. We're really honored. Thank you.
I'm here as well, and thank you. Ditto.
Rename yourself, sir. You're not Julius Spain.
I can't. I'm on my phone, and my phone won't let me.
Sorry. Oh, that's fine. Yeah, here we go. There you go. We got you. We CPO. Go ahead. You know, if you were, go ahead, Stephen.
No, I just wanted to say I'm very honored and privileged to sit on the committee with Megan and everyone else. It's been a great experience so far, and we're just getting started.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you. All right. Let's give the Columbia Pike Revitalization Organization a virtual hand clap, everyone. All right. Moving on to in our agenda here. We have our political action team up. Go here. All right. Jamie and Megan, are you ready?
Yes, sir, we're ready.
All right. Do you have slides, or do you want to pull these down, or what? Do you want to, what's going on?
There should be just 3 slides.
Yeah, I have, okay, we have them on this end. We'll go with, this is the first one, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. President. So we are so excited for our inaugural internship with the Political Action Committee here at the Arlington branch of the NAACP. We received well over 50 applications, which was awesome. So a special thank you for all the hard work of Jamie Abrams, Heather Stamos, and Laura Biederman for reviewing every resume and application in detail. And thank you to the executive committee members who attended the round of interviews that we did. We have 2 phenomenal ladies on board with us for the summer, and they are super smart and very eager to do a lot of work with us. So we'd like to welcome Leonie Alder and Melanie Thomas. And if we can go to the next slide, please. We have just a little bit of information about both of them. I won't read it all to you, but Leonie is a rising senior at Brown. She's studying political science and international and public affairs. She is the product of the Arlington public school system and was the valedictorian of Washington Liberty High School in 2018. Of course, it wasn't named that back then, so she's very excited about the new name. As you can see from the information on the slide, she has been very active in diversity, equity, and inclusion work throughout high school and college. So welcome, Leonie. We also are thrilled to have Melanie Thomas. She just graduated from Colonial Forge High School, and she will be an incoming freshman at Howard studying political science on a track for pre-law. She's very active in the Stafford County NAACP and is a member of their youth council there, and she wants to be a civil rights attorney. So welcome to both of you ladies. And if we go to just the last slide, we just wanted to say a huge thank you to our generous donors for allowing us to have a stipend for these two very deserving students and to making this inaugural internship possible. So thank you all. There's Melanie, I see her, hi.
All right, is Melanie the only one with us tonight?
I see Leonie's in the chat, so she's here at least.
Where's Leah? We gotta find her. Where's she at?
Gotta put your video on.
I'm here. I think
we're gonna add spotlight. Okay, we're gonna each one of you have a minute or so to say a few words. There you go. Floor is yours.
I can start.
Hi
everyone. It's nice to meet everyone and over Zoom, see everyone over Zoom. I'm super excited. Melanie and I are jumping right into our projects. I don't know what else to say. It's so great that membership has risen so much and that we've gotten this opportunity to work with you all. I don't know. I don't know what else. Yeah, Melanie, if you have any words to say, go ahead.
Hi, thank you everyone. This is an amazing opportunity and I'm so excited to be a part of this. I'm excited for our projects and to be working with this committee. I also don't know what else to say other than that, but I am really thankful and it is exciting to see that your membership has risen up.
Great. Well, welcome. Is Jamie available? Jamie, you want to say a few words? Is Jamie here, Megan?
I'm here. I would just echo everything Megan said. A note of gratitude to the entire executive committee and to all that helped make this internship happen. These ladies are off and running on legislative scorecards, on questionnaires for our candidates for the fall, on environmental justice research, and they started last Wednesday. So their future is bright and our branch will be stronger because of their work.
Great. We are so happy to have both Melanie and Leonie with us. What we're going to do is, I know you're going to get to it hard at work. And again, welcome, welcome, welcome on behalf of all the members of the NAACP. All the best. We'll remove these spotlights here. Okay. Let's give them all a hand clap. I tell you, that political action committee, we received over, like I said, 50 some odd applications, some outstanding students, applicants, and they're going to do a terrific job for us in the NAACP. I'm going to screen share one thing here before we move on to the next part of the agenda. Go here. Miss Leah Evans. I want to take a second, everyone, and lift up Miss Leah Evans, who's not only a member of our Arlington branch NAACP and member of our scholarship committee, but she was also one of the first recipients of the Britain Scholarship Award back in 2014. Now, what you see on the screen is a snapshot of the Souvenir Journal back in 2014 when we awarded Leah Ms. Evans, her award. She has done so much. She's went off to college. She's still in college, actually. I'll let her say a little more about that. But Leah's actually going to present tonight and inform everyone who our winners are for 2021. So without any further ado, I'm going to give the floor over to Leah Evans.
Thank you, Mr. President, for that warm introduction. I'm going to quickly go ahead and share my screen so you all are able to view my slides. There we go. There we go. Let me go here. Okay, cool. So good evening, everyone. My name is Leah Evans, and as Mr. President has stated, I was, I guess, one of the original recipients of an NAACP Arlington branch scholarship. Specifically, I had received the Willard Woodson Britton Jr. Foundation Scholarship actually in 2013. And so I'm here as a member of the Arlington Branch Scholarship Committee, as well as a past recipient of an NAACP Arlington Branch Scholarship. With the help of the Arlington Branch NAACP, as well as the Willard Woodson Britton Foundation, I was able to finance my education, undergraduate education at Johns Hopkins University. I obtained a bachelor's in neuroscience and molecular and cellular biology, and with continued support and encouragement from the branch, as well as the Woodson Foundation, I was able to go on to graduate school and received a master's in physiology from Georgetown University. So on behalf of the past, present, and future scholarship recipients, I would like to take this opportunity to fully thank the Arlington Branch NAACP, all of its members, and any who have donated to the scholarship fund over the years. Please know that your contributions are and have been so far-reaching in my life, and they will continue to play a substantial part in the achievements and success of future students of color. So kudos to the branch and all of the donors. On behalf of the Arlington Branch NAACP Scholarship Committee and its members, including Jill DeWitt, Adora Williams, Susan Cunningham, and Ms. Karen Nightingale, it is now my honor to be able to present to you all the Arlington Branch NAACP Scholarship Class of 2021. This year, there were 3 types of scholarship awards available for students. The first is the Willard Woodson Britton Jr. Scholarship, which is a $5,000 a year, 4-year renewable scholarship made possible by funding from the Willard Woodson Britton Jr. Foundation. So thank you to the foundation and Mrs. Brittain for this continued support for our students. Now we have the Arlington Branch NAACP one-time scholarships with an award amount of $1,500, which was made possible, which was made possible by donations made by branch members. So thank you to all who have donated specifically this year for that scholarship award. Our newest available scholarship is the Arlington Branch Future Leaders Scholarship, which was made possible by a generous donation from Amazon. We would like to give Amazon a big thank you for this said funding. This particular scholarship is a $10,000 a year scholarship renewable for 4 years. The recipients for all of these awards were selected based on a community and scholarship committee review. The scholarship committee would like to thank Jenny Apter, Merritt Gillard, Marian Klimkowski, and Laurel Langhorn for dedicating their time to helping complete the community review. Each application was reviewed with consideration based on the applicant's academic achievement, their in-school involvement, community service, evidence of leadership potential, and any exhibited commitment to supporting and advancing the ideals of the Arlington Branch NAACP. Specifically for this newer future leadership scholarship, financial need was also made as a consideration when selecting recipients for that scholarship award. So this particular year, we have, we're going to be distributing $58,000 in scholarship awards. We received 40 completed applications, 39 of which were from Arlington residents. 4 applicants were actually members of the Arlington Branch NAACP. 16 of our applicants plan to attend Virginia schools. 2 of the applicants are attending Ivy League institutions. And the average applicant GPA was a 3.82, which I find to be extremely amazing, especially given the challenges that the COVID-19 pandemic presented to students not only in Arlington, but across this country. These applicants were able to adapt to virtual learning, and despite being in such an abrupt change in their day-to-day activities and available resources, these students still found ways to lean in and to show up for their community through service opportunities like food drives. Some stepped in to help their families and worked part-time jobs to help bring in financial income for those households. Others showed up for their peers through tutoring and mentoring, and they did all of this while still being able to maintain their classes and stay on top of their school course load. All of the applications that we received were highly impressive and competitive, and I'm not gonna lie, the decisions for the awards were incredibly difficult to make, but all of the applicants, regardless of whether or not they receive a scholarship award this year, deserve a round of applause from all of us for their efforts and their accomplishments. So well done to all of the applicants. Now for the awardees. After this slide, we will see each student slide, and you will see it's on the slide. You will see a brief list of their extracurricular activities. So please note that the list serves as just a brief sampling of their involvement. These students were extremely involved in school, out of school, service projects, etc. So the first scholarship being awarded tonight is the Willard Woodson Britton Junior Foundation Scholarship. This award is granted to high school seniors who are residents of Arlington or a member of an Arlington-based civic institution or faith-based organization. The applicants needed a minimum GPA of a 2.5 to even qualify to receive the award. And in order to continue to renew their award, if they receive this award, they need to maintain a 2.5 GPA in college. The Willard Woodson Britton Junior Scholarship has been awarded to Riley Porter, who graduated from Yorktown. She plans to study music business and public relations at Belmont University. She hopes to pursue a career in the artists and repertoire department of a music label to help spread joy with music. So congratulations, Riley Porter. This next group of scholars are recipients for this newest Arlington Branch Future Leaders Scholarship. These recipients needed to be an Arlington resident with a minimum GPA of a 2.75. And just like the Willard Woodson Britton Junior Scholarship, they needed to exhibit high academic achievement, extensive school and community service involvement. They also needed to exhibit leadership potential and show a commitment to support the ideals of the Arlington Branch NAACP. In order to qualify for this award renewal, these students must maintain a 3.0 GPA in college. The first Future Leaders Scholarship recipient is Joanna Agboka. Joanna has graduated from HB Woodlawn and will attend VCU, where she plans to study nursing. She hopes to eventually attend graduate school for a nursing specialization or a master's in public health in order to hopefully start a free clinic to provide healthcare for underrepresented individuals. Congratulations, Joanna. Next, yes, virtual clapping. Next, we have Chelsea Figaro, a graduate of Wakefield. Chelsea will be attending North Carolina A&T to study political science with a minor in African history. She hopes to pursue further studies in global relations and aspires to utilize her education to help better her community. Congratulations, Chelsea. Alexander Hall. Alexander Hall is a graduate from Wakefield as well. He plans to attend UVA as an undecided major. However, he would like to utilize his education to address injustice and racial inequity. Alexander aspires to advance the NAACP's vision of a society where all individuals have equal rights without any type of race-based discrimination. So congratulations, Alexander. Elena Ogby is also a Wakefield graduate. She will be attending JMU in the fall to study nursing. She aspires to work as a nurse in communities with vulnerable populations in order to help eradicate healthcare disparities that especially affect women of color. So congratulations, Elena. The last Future Leader Scholarship recipient is Belen Tesfaye. Belen is a graduate of Washington Liberty. She plans to attend Northeastern University, where she would like to major in the health sciences with a minor in global health and computer science. She hopes to continue on to medical school in order to become a neurosurgeon or a general surgeon. So congratulations, Belen. Lastly, we have the Arlington Branch NAACP One-Time Award Scholarship recipient. This scholarship was made possible by donations to the branch. In order to qualify for this scholarship, this student needed to have a minimum GPA of a 2.5. This year's one-time scholarship is awarded to Kira Harrison, who graduated from Washington Liberty. She will be attending Virginia Tech with plans to study landscape horticulture and design with a minor in environmental science. She plans to utilize her education to build sustainable domains and communities that are in harmony with nature. So congratulations, Kira. We would also like to recognize a student who is not currently on one of the slides, but he was originally awarded a scholarship, but unable to accept the monetary award. Abel Galetta graduated from Washington Liberty as a Britton Scholar and plans to attend Yale in the fall. He has not decided on his major yet, but he would like to utilize whatever he studies to combat societal problems and eliminate corruption within the criminal justice system. He aspires to pursue a career as a lawyer, software engineer, consultant, or possible analyst, and he is also a member of the Arlington branch NAACP. So congratulations to Abel Galetta for his consideration. To all of the scholarship recipients of the class of 2021, congratulations on your academic accomplishments. Just as you have been blessed with these awards, please try to pay these blessings forward by engaging in service and generating positive changes in the communities that you will now call home for the next 4 years. You all are probably extremely excited for this next chapter in your academic life. Please do make the most of it. I and the rest of the scholarship committee, as well as all of the members of the Arlington branch NAACP, know that you all are destined to do great things. So congratulations to all of you. Okay, thank you.
Let's give another round of applause to the scholarship committee and to all the recipients of our 2021 scholarships. They are amazing. Simply amazing. If we had 50 scholarships to give out, we would. I mean, every student was deserving of something, and perhaps next year. But they're going to do great things with the NAACP and in schools. So we'll keep them close to us, Leah. The NAACP, we'll monitor them along the way. We're going to work out and have some mentoring programs here, hopefully. But number of great things. We're going to try to stay on schedule. Well, excuse me. Oh, yeah. Jill DeWitt has her hand raised. Jill, she was on the scholarship committee. Go ahead, Jill.
Yes, I just wanted to take a moment to mention that we are starting a mentorship program to support our new scholars. And so if you're interested in becoming one of the mentors, please feel free to reach out to me, Adora Williams, or Karen Nightingale, the other co-chairs of the committee, and you can contact me in the chat anytime during the meeting. But particularly if you happen to be an alum of one of the colleges that one of the recipients is attending, or if you have studied one of the fields, the careers that they're interested in, that would be particularly helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Okay, we're about 2 minutes behind, but we're going to stay on schedule here. Next up, we're going to have a presentation tonight and then followed by a panel. Restorative Arlington, Kimiko, Lighty, are you with us?
Yes, hello.
Okay, and you have someone with you as well?
Yes, I have brought my friend and colleague Yazid Jackson from Restorative DC.
Let me see if I can find him here. Oh, here he is. We get him ready. Okay, add him to the spotlight. All right. Well, we're going to stay on schedule. I think a lot of individuals, a lot of our members, even some of our friends, they have heard of restorative justice, Restorative Arlington. And we promised you back in January that we will have you at some point in time to come and give us a brief and presentation and maybe answer some questions from our members and friends here on the call about what it is you're doing and how the NAACP can help you be successful. I would ask for those of you that may have questions, please put them in the chat. I'm sure also that Kimiko and Yazid Mr. Jackson will figure out a way to answer those questions. But without any further ado, welcome. I present to everyone Ms. Lighty and Mr. Jackson for your 30-minute presentation.
Thank you so much, JD. I really appreciate it. If it's all right, I'm going to share my slides. All right. So thank you for having Restorative Arlington. I am Kimiko Lighty, she, her, hers. I was hired by the county manager as the coordinator for Restorative Arlington, following on the really amazing work of Leanne Roselle, who was on loan from Annie E. Casey Foundation for last year, and has since returned to Annie E. Casey Foundation, but is still very involved with everything we're doing. I talk to her almost every day. So I am a restorative justice facilitator and a circle keeper. I'm also an Arlington resident and an APS parent. Restorative Arlington is a county-wide effort to bring restorative justice practices to Arlington County schools, legal system, and communities. In 2023, working groups comprised of 45 community members, stakeholders, and system partners met for more than 1,300 person hours over 6 months to create the strategic plan, which was accepted by the county board in November. In 2021, we have partnered with well-established restorative justice programs around the country, as well as system partners here in Arlington and local community and faith-based organizations to begin to implement the strategic plan. Restorative Arlington is also a leaderful effort boasting dozens of community volunteers across 6 implementation teams. So what is restorative justice? Many of you have probably heard some things. Restorative justice practices have their origins in Indigenous knowledge. They are intended to deepen connections among people through intentionally inclusive practices that cultivate empathy, trust, and mutual respect. They respond to harm by engaging all affected parties and others as needed in creative, collaborative processes that enable meaningful accountability through acknowledging and repairing harm. They support community members in handling conflict in potentially transformative ways. And they advance equity through a framework that is deeply rooted in the understanding that we are all interconnected and we all have value. I wanted to share this. Travis Claybrooks, who runs Rafa Institute in Nashville, Tennessee, has been a strong partner in our diversion program development. And he says, justice is loving on one another so much that we all thrive. I love that quote. So I created this infographic last year in collaboration with lots of other restorative justice practitioners. And it shows sort of the broad range of capacity we're trying to build here in Arlington County. We want to build capacity for proactive peace building processes that build relationships and prevent conflict, all the way through systemic interventions that respond to conflict, repair relationships, and resolve conflict. And most people have probably heard the most about targeted interventions, the restorative justice diversion program that we are creating in our criminal legal system to divert cases out of the criminal legal system and into a community-based organization. We're hoping that will be up and running by the end of the year. And I've used an infographic from our partners at Impact Justice to sort of show a flow of what that looks like. A harm is committed and a youth or young adult is arrested for it. Instead of sending them through the court process, which can create an ongoing cycle of incarceration and harm, we divert them to a community-based organization where we get consent for the young person involved, consent for the people harmed, and then we engage in a collaborative process of preparation. And then we bring everyone together for a restorative community conference. And that conference creates a consensus-based plan. The facilitators follow that plan through its completion, and then the case is done. And so in this conference, right, we sort of identify everyone's needs. We agree to a plan, we do what the plan is required, and then we see positive outcomes for our community. There are 3 questions we focus on: what happened, who was harmed and how, and what can we do to repair the harm in these processes. And we see tremendous victim satisfaction, person harm satisfaction. We see a reduction in youth recidivism, and we see cost savings for our system and for our community, both long and short term. And I want to talk about accountability really quickly, because one thing that restorative justice processes do better, in my opinion, than our criminal legal system is create real accountability, a path to accountability for those who have committed a harm. Not the same as punishment, which doesn't require a person being punished to reflect on the behavior or to change, but real accountability that asks the person who is responsible for a harm to acknowledge the responsibility for their actions, to acknowledge the impact of their actions on others, to express genuine remorse, to actually do sorry by taking an action or multiple actions to repair the harm as much as it is possible, guided by the needs of the people who were actually harmed. And then finally, a commitment to no longer commit a similar harm. So Fania Davis, who wrote the Little Book of Race and Restorative Justice, says that the success of restorative justice depends on seeing ourselves not only as agents of individual transformation, but also as drivers of system transformation. And I want to share a little bit of data really quickly. I mentioned 91% of people harmed would recommend restorative justice conferencing to a friend. It is 8 times more expensive to use the court system than to use a restorative justice conferencing process. Participating youth were 44% less likely to recidivate compared to similarly situated probation youth. And this figure seems really important to me. 98.8, that's almost the 100% of parents or guardians who participated in a restorative justice process said they would recommend restorative community conferencing to a friend. This is a comparison from a Western criminology study between the criminal legal system and restorative justice. We see lower rates of recidivism, higher rates of person harmed satisfaction, lower rates of a person harmed fearing that the same thing is going to happen to them again, and then higher rates of completed restitution. And this number, using restorative justice practices, Minnesota schools reduced suspension by 63%, which kind of moves us into our conversation about restorative justice in schools. And I just wanted to share this last quote. I think restorative justice is effective because it's all about hearing about the needs of community members. And David Osterberger, who is a Mennonite who was really involved with restorative justice early on, being heard is so close to being loved that for the average person, they are almost indistinguishable. So now I want to introduce my friend and colleague, Yazzie Jackson. Yazzie is an expert in leading change and implementing restorative justice practice in schools. He's a skilled facilitator and coach who has successfully led over 20 schools across multiple school districts in whole school change efforts that embed restorative justice principles and practices. Under his leadership, Restorative DC has developed a comprehensive array of options designed to engage educators in understanding the power of restorative justice and how to design programs that meet the individual needs of their schools. This includes supporting educators through professional development trainings and workshops, targeted technical assistance, and whole school implementation, as well as youth-focused programming. Yazzie and his team have also provided youth-focused leadership and advocacy training to facilitate the role of young people play in leading and supporting school culture change. So thank you for joining us, Yazzie, to talk about what you're doing with APS.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate that. That was, it feels a little bit different hearing it. So thank you. Makes me feel like I'm doing something in the world. So definitely appreciate that opening. I'm really happy to be here. Really happy to share with you all the work that we're going to begin doing in Arlington. The majority of my work currently is in Washington, D.C. I've had the opportunity of working in some other districts in Oakland, Houston, Broward County, in Florida, New York City, Philadelphia, New Jersey, and Chicago. So happy to be kind of anchored in this area and being able to implement, support in any way I can to support the schools, to support our most marginalized students as we begin to really implement, plan, and execute a restorative plan that supports all community members. So thank you for having me.
Just let me know when you want me to move the slides along, Yazzie.
Yep. All right. And so Kimiko did a really excellent job of kind of walking us through what what restorative justice brings. So, it really brings a mindset shift for our whole community. And when we're looking at RJ in schools, it can differ a little bit. It can differ a little bit in terms of the application of the work. In the judiciary system and youth justice, it looks a little bit different than in schools, but the value system and the ingredients are still the same. The application, the practices may look a little bit different. You may hear restorative justice, you may hear restorative practices. Those words are not interchangeable. They have separate meanings. That'll be a 5-hour conversation that we just don't have the time to dig in today. So we're just going to nail in on restorative justice for today. And then I will also highlight some of the practices that support restorative justice. So I just want to, a quick disclaimer, they're not the same words. They don't have the same meaning. So you may hear in this presentation a little bit of restorative justice and restorative practices, but just know that's a 5-hour conversation where those words aren't interchangeable. So mindset shift, and that's what we really want to go for initially, is really shifting the mindset shift, which are rooted in the values. And it's how we see people, it's how we see things, it's how we see the community, it's how we see ourselves. The community represents students, teachers, school staff, principals, families, and the neighborhood, which, now we all are third cousins. And these practices aim to keep youth in school and then other communities. It's rooted in to promote a safe and inviting learning environment. So when we look at the word safe, we're not talking about, physical safe and violence and fighting. We're also talking about intellectual safety. We're talking about psychological safety. We're talking about emotional safety. So when we're talking about safety in the learning environment, it's allowing all students, where they're coming with, and we're actually inviting them to bring their backpacks into the building. Repair harm and build stronger relationships, and provide opportunities for youth and students to be worthy, active, and accountable members of their community. On the left side, you will see an infographic where we have kind of 3 pillars kind of rooted in 3 circles. So we have building and maintain relationships, we have create just and equitable learning environments, and we have repair harm and transform conflict, not avoid conflict, transform conflict, because we know conflict is inevitable in our communities. Next slide. And so as we look at really imploring and implementing RJ, this is a similar graphic to the one Kimiko shared previously, but this is our continuum of practices from a proactive preventative approach to a responsive approach. And as Kimiko said earlier, a lot of the approaches that we see kind of in the judiciary system is kind of rooted in really equitable and just practices in the responsive. And what we like to go by in our continuum of restorative practices is the approach of the 80-20 rule. And so the 80-20 rule for us is 80% of our practices are rooted in proactive relationship and prevention. And so I'm not going to read every slide, but if you can see on top, you'll see like the frequency. You'll see informal to formal. So, how does this occur? It may happen in the classroom, it may happen in the cafeteria, it may happen in the hallway. It may happen, when students are coming in the building. And it really rolls into our more formal practices where these practices may need a high skill level in facilitation. It may need more time in prep and planning. It also requires more people and more coordination. So what we like to do is really begin to think about identity. And we really get into the culture. So identity, we get into the culture. And I know sometimes we hear climate and culture and we think those 2 words are interchangeable, but I'm not going to dig all the way into it, but just to separate them a little bit so we can have a little bit more information on what those 2 words mean. But culture is the systems, processes, and procedures and practices that a school is implementing. And that's maybe written, that may be informal. So we're talking about norms. Climate is the personal and individual thermostats. It's how people feel. It's how spaces feel. So you can have a high performing school with a horrible climate. So if you look at data and says, oh, well, we have 95% graduation rate. Well, that's cute. That's nice. But the climate feels unjust to people of color. So we have to look at that. What does the climate say? And making sure that our culture, our practices, our systems, our legislation, our law, our policies really support the most marginalized, not highlighting the most successful, the students that have perfect attendance. So we really want to make sure and understand that RJ, restorative justice, is an equitable framework that has multiple practices that interrogates equity and justice throughout the continuum. So as you can see, we have identity, we have classroom practices, we have community building, and that's a continuation of relationship building and getting to know. We believe that we don't believe in the saying, listen to what I say, not as I do. So community building is, I'm listening to what you're saying, I'm watching what you do, and how does it impact me? We're looking at curriculum. Is there, is equity in curriculum? Are we speaking about subjects in the classroom that meets the needs of all community members? And then we go into, some relational conversation and restorative dialogue and effective statements. Then we get into circles. So you may have heard a lot about restorative circles. And as you can see on this continuum, restorative circles come in at the sixth part of our continuum. It's not at the beginning. And so we really want to highlight that restorative circles are a practice of restorative justice, but circles are not restorative justice. And we'll dig into that a little bit deeper as we go along. Next slide. And so our whole school model, we actually refined, and we actually put, you all might call it DEI, DIE. We call it READ. We call it race, equity, inclusion, diversity. What we learned is, the touchy subject around race in schools is like something that nobody really wants to deal with. So we've begun to add that into our whole school model. And so this whole school model touches all members of the community and the relationships with each other. It aligns school culture, which we talked about a little bit, along with values of trust, compassion, inclusivity, accountability, safety, and equity. And we use both proactive and responsive practices. And as you can go along this circle, and we have many circles that supports our pillars that I spoke of earlier, we're looking at leadership. What is the leadership saying? What is the leadership promoting? Staff engagement. How is staff really engaged in the practices that we're implementing? How are we influencing positive school climate and culture? What are our restorative discipline policies and practices? How are we engaging youth? Are we naming things that impact them? Are we really engaging in authentic dialogue and asking them what's happening? What are they impacted by? And then lastly, but not least, we also have community engagement. How can community really engage in all of these efforts that support students outside of school? Students are in school 35.5 hours a week, but they're in the community more than that. So how can the community support these young people in school and outside of the school with having the same or similar values? So there's a higher level of accountability. And what we like to talk about enlarge the circle, increase the circle. So increasing the circle is bringing more people to the party, sharing the same values. And back in the day, not my era per se, but it was like when you go down and you're in a neighborhood, you can get whooped by everybody. Now, unfortunately, that wasn't my lived experience. However, it's the same value system. If you're not going to do it in your house, you're not going to do it in the community. And then lastly, we really want to interrogate, and I use that word explicitly and carefully. We want to interrogate and explore race, equity, inclusion, and diversity, and making sure that we're not just bringing people in the room. We want to make sure that we're caring for all members that come in a room, and they all can share a space and have a level of autonomy as they enter. Next slide. And so our whole school approach really dives a little bit deeper. And so what we're kind of outlining here is kind of having this overarching and then kind of getting, you know, to the nitty gritty of the work. And this is an MTSS, so multi-tiered systems of support structure, the triangle. And so what we really like to do is bring and build schools from the basement up. And what we like to do is, from the previous continuum, is really look at community building. So we're looking at a universal approach of prevention, to really build from the basement. And so what a lot of schools do is they build from the roof and hope the roof and the basement connect. And what we're saying is it doesn't, and it will never happen. And that's why we have so many fractured school systems. And so what we're looking to do is really building it from the community level. And community level, we're really exploring all community members and stakeholders. So we're looking at local, you know, corner stores. We're looking at bodegas. We're looking at 7-Elevens. We're looking at the local Walmarts that our kids really go to. We're looking at the spaces that they share. And now we're looking at how can we bring all parties in and build systems to support. And how we look at this level is, and this is a tier 1 level. So in the bottom, we have tier 1, which is all. So this is what everybody has access to, equity and inclusion. And we're looking at tier 2, and we're looking at classroom interventions. Tier 3, we're looking at really intensive support. So if we look at the bottom, we go by all, some, and few. So tier 1 is all, tier 2 is some, tier 3 is few. And so then what we look at is what are the practices that's going to support this restorative culture. So on the right side, you can see effective statements, proactive circles, restorative questions and inquiry. And then we have responsive circles and conferences that kind of supports that continuum. As we go lateral, so our continuum was left to right and a little bit more linear, and our whole school approach is lateral and vertical. So we're looking at how are we building practices to build the capacity of staff members, leadership, and community members as we look to build this village around our students and our community. So this is a student-centered approach, but we also invite community members in building the capacity so that every space that students touch, there's a level of accountability throughout the system. Next slide. One more forward. There we go. And then we look at our stakeholders. We really want to really target who are our stakeholders. So we have participants in restorative implementation. For Arlington, we're looking at community members. We're looking at students. We're looking at families. We're looking at school neighborhood. We're looking at CBOs. And we also are looking at other community partnerships. What we're also saying is we're not the fixer of the school community. We're just playing one part in our framework. And so we want to really think about other partnerships, other priority areas, and we want to attach ourselves to those priority areas and look at similarities and how we're rooted in the same values. And if there are differences in our approach and practices, then we need to take the time to, investigate what those things are so that we can become more aligned and not have confusion when we're dealing with our community members, our staff, and our students. And we're looking at our primary staff. We're looking at staff, aides, support staff, library staff, administrators, school resource officers, cafeteria, janitorial, custodial staff, school administration, principals, assistant principals, deans, mental health providers, social workers, counselors, behavior techs, et cetera. And then our other attack that we're doing in APS is also aligning our planning that's going to support the schools. We're also looking at how is our central office and our central administration supporting the schools as they implement. And so what we're saying is this isn't going to work unless all parties are doing it and on the same page. So if the schools are doing it and the central administration isn't doing it, then we have a fractured community. Yes. And a part of the school counselors, they count as a part of our school administration, our mental health. So that includes psychologists, mental health, and our behavior teams as key members in our implementation. Next slide. And so this is our plan. And this is how we plan on doing it within the next 2 years and hopefully more. We're looking at the summer. So our summer portion looks like introduction and understanding the needs and priorities of the district. So right now we're currently looking at data. We're asking some questions. I don't know what it is. We're taking notes and we're looking at orientating ourselves and building relationships with our first cohort, which would be our secondary schools. We're forming an implementation team and we're going to begin mapping. So our implementation in year 1 is going to be our introduction meetings for our 15 schools, including central office. We're also going to have professional development that's going to guide and build the capacity as we continue to plan. Our goal is to build capacity as we plan. We don't go into any school district and we work with multiple with a one-size-fit-all in a linear approach. We actually go based on our pillars, which is needs. So we look at the data, we evaluate the data, we ask questions, we build our teams, we build relationships, and then we begin to explore using capacity and activities of inquiry, curiosity, challenges, and noting barriers. And as you can see, we have a vertical and a horizontal. And we're looking at really in a lot of, folks ask across the country, well, how do we know that RJ works? And so every portion of our practices, we're going to make sure that we have an evaluation matrix to support best practices, interrogate what is right, what is wrong, and investigate our challenges as we move ahead. And as you kind of look through this infographic, we're looking at a year 1 and year 2. We're committed to activities that support, challenge the school community as we support, plan, and implement as we go along. And so our first cohort of schools, which is 15, not including our central office, at the end of the year, our goal is to build out an implementation plan. And this implementation plan will have benchmarks, it will have data sources, it will have action steps, it will have evaluation, and key members and actions and who does what. And we'll also develop key members that's going to implement the work in each individual school. And I'll let you kind of read through this and kind of mull over this a little bit so you can kind of ask any questions that you may have around that. But a part of this work is to challenge the norm, challenge what has been done, interrogate what we can do, and really look for how we can create a customized plan for each school to really reach our goals and reach the entire community's needs. And I will take a pause and let you all kind of think about some questions. And these are some of the supplemental supports that we offer. So we have special education at RJ, we have youth engagement, we have games, engagement, and brain breaks, family engagement, building and sustaining community, agreement writing, race, equity, inclusion, diversity, rapid response, and microcircles, restorative frameworks for discipline for the new normal. And as you can see, the list is pretty expansive. And this is a portion of the activities and professional development that we offer. But what I would like to offer you and look at our cycle of work. We look at professional development. We will host a community of practice. We look at skill building and coaching, and then planning as a continuum practice that guides our work. And then we continue to go through that cycle throughout a 2-year framework.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Thank you. I think you can go for 2 hours, but we're a little behind schedule. Please, Kimiko, put those slides in the chat if you may, so we can share them. We do have a few questions. The first question is going to be from one of our at-large members of the executive committee and also co-chair of our education, at-large member of the branch, executive committee, and co-chair of our education committee, Ms. Simone Walker. Simone?
Hi, Aviv.
How you doing?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I have a rhetorical question and a real question. How can we get you over to APS? APS needs you. But the real question is, we are now, actually, comments just closed on our student code of conduct policy, and there's going to be a corresponding student code of conduct handbook. The school board is expected to act on the code of conduct policy in August. And so it needs a lot of revision and a lot of work to be undergirded properly by restorative practices. What coordination is there between you and policy reviews at APS to incorporate everything that was in this marvelous presentation?
Yeah, funny thing you ask, and I appreciate the question. We're currently working on that. So me and my team is currently working on the revisions of that policy that you're speaking of. So we've been working with Dr. Allen. My team has been doing some research. We've been working on it. We've put in some questions. So we have a July 30th deadline that we're working on, and we also have a secondary deadline in July at some point that we're continuing to work on the code of conduct to add this language and also add and be realistic. One thing about student code of conducts, they could be really unrealistic and really giving communities what they need to hear. We're not interested in that. We really want to give them an ideal look and also making sure that the policy matches with the practices. And so we want to make sure year one, year two, that this is going to be a scaled approach. We have our wish list, but we also have practicality and where the adults are. And so a part of the handbook is where adults are. And so we want to be able to move the adults so we can move the practice and keep scaling that up. So then at year 3, we kind of have our wish list kind of acted out a little bit more. And as we build and so if we have this wish list, we have to do more work with mindset shifting and capacity building with our staff to make sure it supports what's written on paper that we actually see in schools.
Thank you so much. So happy to hear that. You made my entire summer.
Thanks, Samo. Well, we didn't have any more raised hands, but we do have.
JD, I did raise my. This is Sharice. I raised my hand twice. For some reason, it keeps coming off. It keeps falling off.
Okay, where are you at? Oh, okay. Go ahead, Sharice.
Hi, Gezi. Thank you so much for your presentation. I'm Sharice, and I am the other education co-chair for the branch. And I just wanted to, and I see that Meg just dropped into the chat that that you've been working with Jeanette Allen for quite some time, or just a few months. I think that's really interesting. So that means that you've probably seen the data on suspensions. And so you know that at Wakefield, although Black students are 20% of the population, they constitute 49% of the suspensions. And the same for Gunston, where they're 15% of the population, but 53% of the suspensions. It's this kind of disproportionality that you're going to find throughout. I'm sure you've seen it. It's stark. It's something that we've been advocating for attention to for years. So we're really glad that you're here. My question is, at this point, and I know we're really early in the implementation of this, do you have any thoughts, takeaways, or ideas for what the community should be advocating for as we begin this part of the journey?
Yeah, so I would start with, and I would be frank, and there's no other way of attacking it, is how do we see kids of color? How do we see students of color? And if we don't have that conversation, then the data conversation is irrelevant. And so if we look at students of color as being dangerous, as being traumatized, as not, broken families, then the code of conduct really doesn't matter. Because what we're also saying is that education and learning is a human interaction. And there's multiple individuals that have a bunch of stereotypes, biases that impact decision-making. And if we're looking at, 49% and 53%, what we're also saying is our adults don't see Black and brown students the same way we see white students.
Basically, yes.
And if we don't have that conversation, then there's really no other conversation to have about data, because we're not talking about student decision-making, we're actually talking about adult decision-making.
Yes.
And so if we're not having that conversation, then we're setting students of color up for failure, and that's negligence. And so the read work, we really want to confront that. And so when you're walking down the hallway and you see a white student and a black student have the same act, why is it that you want to act on a black student, not the white student the same way? Exactly. Is it socioeconomic? Is it color? Is it gender? And so these are the things that we're going to confront in some of our sessions and coaching and activities to really explore, how do you see people that don't look like you?
Yep. So the Education Committee is here and we stand at the ready to help out however it's needed, because this is a long-term ongoing problem. If you've looked at the suspension data they started collecting in about 1999, you'll see that those numbers have not changed radically since then. And we have to do something. And I think that RJ or restorative practices are the way to start to get at this by starting to dismantle the culture. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Second Vice President. Sorry, I don't know why I didn't see your hand up there, but at least we got our education co-chairs attacking and asking the right questions. Yasid and Kimiko, again, thank you for attending. We're a little bit behind schedule. You know, the NAACP is here. Both Cherie and Simone and the entire team standing there ready to help aid and assist as needed. So let's keep these lines of communication open and work together in peace and harmony. Okay, we can make this happen. Thank you very much. Let's give this group a round of applause, everyone. Thank you. All right, let's get our next group up and ready. Hopefully this is what everybody came here to see. You have to raise your hand so I can find you. Do we have our individual from ACLU here? Oh, Ben.
Hi.
Ben is okay. Ben, I'm starting to tag folks. Ben from SURJ Nova.
I'm here. I'm trying to figure out how to raise my hand.
I'm just going to try to, I got to find you. See?
There we go.
Oh, here you go. All right. SURJ. Heather.
I'm here.
Give me a second, Heather. I'm slow. Were you at, Heather?
I am here. I was going to raise my hand, but I can't find my hand. Okay.
Kim Phillips.
I'm here.
Let me find you, Kim. Say something again, Kim.
I'm here. I've got my hand raised.
Gotcha. All right, good. Kent Carter. Where you at, Kent? I know he was on here earlier.
Can you see me?
Oh, I see you. Okay. All right, everyone. So we're going to be dropping some things up in the chat while they talk. But listen, the hour is near. The NAACP has been working long and hard across America, in the Commonwealth, and so has our legislators, right? This panel discussion is going to be about a little bit about history of policing. We're going to start with SURJ Nova. We're going to talk about civilian review boards. And from the ACLU, all we're going to ask for them is their thoughts a little bit about civilian review boards. We have two individuals with us tonight who actually sat on the police practices group, CRB subcommittee, Ms. Kim Phillip, and our first Vice President, Kent Carter. And we also have Ms. Heather Kelly, Esquire, who's on our Criminal Justice Committee and help with the markup that we're also going to drop in the chat. When we're done with all of this, there will be a call to action. So it may even happen during the conversation. You'll see some things in the link. We're going to need you to sign up, read through it. We have some work to do in the next coming days. There's a listening session tomorrow before the county board, 90 minutes. We need as many people as possible to sign up, our allies included. But again, this conversation to talk about civilian review boards, where we're at. And Kent, I'm going to turn it over to you, but we want to go with Courtney first to give a little some context, some history of policing. Then we'll have ACLU kind of chime in, and then we'll talk through what you and Kim went through during those 7 months on the PPG. And Heather will talk about our markup to the ordinance. So Kent, the floor is yours, Mr. Vice President.
Oh, thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, it was truly an honor to participate in this with my fellow members, Kim, for 7 months. It was a long process, but Yeah, and obviously many thanks to Delegate Hope and the other legislators that passed the enabling statute, which gave that authority across the Commonwealth. So we pretty much, it was obviously a long process. So we went from beginning to end. We started with the education piece because we all came from different backgrounds. So we brought in nationwide and national experts on the subject, civilian oversight, civilian review boards. And that kind of laid the groundwork from how we crafted our recommendations that ultimately went to the county manager. It is kind of disappointing that he didn't come out with our full recommendations. So we're still trying to work through that process now, as you guys know. The president did mention that tomorrow the county board is holding a listening session. I dropped the link into the chat, so feel free to sign up for that. We encourage all of our members to go in and at least watch it and participate if you have some comments, because this will be like one of the few opportunities that you have to engage directly with the county board members. 1v1, I think they're going to have breakout sessions, room sessions, so smaller group settings. So you'll actually be able to communicate and interact directly with that county board member. I think they're putting people in it by random. But yeah, so highly encourage everyone to do that. So that way that we can, express our intent and hopefully get, our points across in an educated way, backed with data that you guys will hear about tonight. So thank you guys again for the opportunity. Look forward to questions at the end. And I think we're going to pass it over to Courtney, who's going to give us a little bit of the background on this in the US. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's really an honor to be here tonight, and I really appreciate the invite. My name's Courtney. I use she, her pronouns. I am one of the members of the leadership team of SURJ, which stands for Showing Up for Racial Justice, Northern Virginia. And we do a lot of political education around policing and alternatives to calling the police, essentially, in Northern Virginia. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to try to keep this brief. It's really hard to condense the entire history of modern day policing into a few minutes, but I'm going to start by dropping a link for you in the chat. And what I am dropping is a link to a timeline by an organization called Critical Resistance. And it gives a really comprehensive history of policing from sort of like pre-colonial days to the present. Basically, and feel free to follow along. I might even share my screen to just hit the highlights here.
Yeah, please share your screen, Courtney.
All right, I've got it. I'm in. Can y'all see it? Are we good? Okay.
We're good.
Awesome. So basically, and this, I mean, again, I can't do this I can't go through the whole thing, but sort of to hit the main highlights, in Europe and its colonies in like the Middle Ages, policing kind of started as night watches, which were sort of men, civilians who patrolled the streets at night. They weren't really well liked. They were unwilling and not very good at their jobs. And then, the Shire Reeve in England is where we get modern day sheriffs from. They're basically representatives of the crown that made sure laws were being enforced. They were also unpopular tax collectors, coroners, justices of the peace, constables. Basically, in England, this kind of evolves. And then when the Americas are colonized, policing or these sort of European justice systems are imported to the United States. And so they're still unpopular in the 15 to 1800s as they're being imported to the US. Their jobs were really centered around taxing and elections, as well as law enforcement. And then, of course, we have the establishment of the transatlantic slave trade. The use of force and control of bodies is institutionalized into economic systems in the Americas. And what really happens is once slavery takes hold in the US, policing really becomes a way of controlling enslaved people. So we get a lot of militias and patrols. Places like South Carolina are passing laws that allow any white person to capture and punish a runaway enslaved person. And basically, white supremacy and policing start becoming tied together. So I know I'm running through this really quickly because this is a long timeline. I know y'all have more to talk about. But these kind of slave patrols become organized, and those are the first proper antecedents to modern police forces. And so in the 1700s, we start seeing laws where like curfew laws for Black and Indigenous folks, basically like race and law enforcement become really intertwined. And then as the 1700s go on, things like national militias unify. And then in the early 1800s, we have things like pass laws and basically allowing the arrest of any Black person who didn't have a pass. We've got Nat Turner's Rebellion. I'm really running through this quickly, but you can go back and look at this timeline, after I'm done talking as well. But essentially what happens is in the South in America, policing becomes organized around slave patrols. And in the North, after the Civil War and into the early 20th century, and now the pictures aren't loading very well, but police forces become geared toward quelling labor uprisings. So, and then the kind of uniformed police that we think about, that we associate with, police, that doesn't really happen until the mid 19th century in New York City, Boston, Philadelphia. So police start coalescing into one relatively uniform type in the mid 1800s. But again, they've evolved out of slave patrols, out of eventually, quelling labor uprisings. So, some of the stuff on the timeline is also sort of just notable historical events like John Brown's raid, Reconstruction. I'm going to fast forward a little bit. Obviously, there's the 13th Amendment in 1865, where slavery was abolished, however, except as punishment for a crime. So that's, you see a sort of the birth of like mass incarceration. Like we have emancipation, but again, the 13th Amendment counteracts that a bit. I'm going to keep fast forwarding. Some of these things are, you may already know. But essentially, like I said, the really important thing to remember is that once police start coalescing into like a unified force across the nation in the mid to late 1800s, they become really focused around not just policing people of color and specifically Black people, but also quelling dissent. So for instance, the Haymarket riot leads to police rioting against demonstrators and killing at least a dozen. Fast forwarding even more, we've got, increasing urbanization. Into the 20th century, we have some progressive era reforms. However, we have the creation of state troopers in the early 20th century. And that begins as a response again to labor uprising, to union actions. We've got, again, the first state police force established in Pennsylvania in 1905. This is what I was talking about with labor uprisings, the Bread and Roses strike. Police were involved in a lot of violence there. And then, so in the early 20th century, that's common, right? And we also have, we start seeing race riots in the 20th century. And then, just again, fast forwarding, because I know you don't have a ton of time, but we have like the creation of, here we go, in the mid 20th century, the crime fighting era. So there's the birth of civil rights movements, but there's also the birth of the FBI, sort of expanding crime fighting responsibilities, more authority to training local police, more police in general. We have McCarthyism, Japanese incarceration, Detroit riots. But essentially during this time, and we've been talking a lot about police in schools lately, that also starts kind of the precursor of what we know today, starts around in the 1950s. But essentially during this era of expanded crime fighting in the mid 20th century, we have a proliferation of police forces in America. And because of that long history of suppression of dissent and racism and oppression of people of color within police forces, a proliferation of policing leads to a proliferation of racism and racist violence by police. And so things like COINTELPRO, which is an FBI program, becomes active in suppressing civil rights and Black Power activities. So police start acting with violence against civil rights activists. Eventually, there's more sort of civil rights stuff here. Police unions are formed in the 60s and 70s. So police have really just been especially in the 20th century, just gaining power, gaining tons of power and continuing to suppress people fighting for liberation and people dissenting against oppressive policies. So these are just a bunch of other examples of that. We have the formation of the Black Panther Party in 1969. There's the Crime Omnibus Act, but in 1969, Fred Hampton is murdered by the FBI. That's a slide somewhere along here. Here we go. And then, there is a ton more that I am just whipping through for time's sake, but this leads into things like the war on drugs, which leads to further criminalization of Black people through things like criminalizing possession of marijuana, cracking down on that. So I think I'm getting to that eventually, but then that, again, that increased criminalization and police repression leads to more and more, there's the drug war, more and more oppression of people of color at the hands of the police, and eventually leads to things like, I'm just going to keep fast forwarding until it catches up to what I'm talking about, leads to things like zero tolerance laws, racial profiling, things like stop and frisk, and then community policing models. So there's sort of a hand in hand here. There's a proliferation of numbers of police and police crackdowns against people of color. And at the same time, there's a concurrent kind of, sometimes it's called propaganda, portrayal of police as really engaged with communities and really helpful and wonderful. But the question, of course, is they're wonderful and helpful to whom, right? Who are they actually serving? Who are they actually protecting? So that takes us into, there's Joe Biden's crime bill. Again, in the 80s and 90s, this proliferation and sort of veneration of police and cracking down on crime gets further and further baked into policy. You can sort of see how through the centuries, policing has grown from a greatly disliked force or thing back in its early formation in England to a venerated, deified, just totally baked into the culture phenomenon in the 90s. So, this takes us into the 21st century, and there's, backlash and birth of new movements. I'm just gonna keep fast forwarding. But basically, into the the aughts and the 2010s, you have the murder of a lot of Black folks at the hands of police, such as Oscar Grant, Michael Brown, Trayvon Martin, and uprisings, of course, the birth of the Black Lives Matter movement in the wake of that. But essentially, what this timeline shows and what all of this talking I'm doing is supposed to say is really just that you can see how policing in this country has really snowballed from something and has a long history of being tied to the oppression of people of color and the suppression of dissent. So I don't want to belabor this and keep going. I'm going to stop sharing. But that is critical resistance. If you want to keep educating yourself on that or refreshing your memory, it's a really great resource to really dive into that timeline and see how policing evolved from something that was not liked at all to this really oppressive force. And I too wish we had a whole evening to discuss this. One other thing, and yeah, so like I said, SURJ Nova, the organization I'm part of, we do a whole workshop on alternatives to calling the police that if you're interested in, we offer it publicly at certain points. We also offer it for organizations. So it's something we could definitely discuss doing because we have time to really get in breakout rooms and discuss sort of our own interactions with the police or our own kind of preconceptions, preconceived notions about policing, our over-reliance perhaps on police. And one thing we also talk about is alternatives to calling the police. So with SURJ, I mean, we're ultimately an organization that is fighting for hopefully one day the abolition of policing as we currently know it. But en route to that, we want to basically reduce interactions between police and people of color, just to sort of reduce harm as much as possible. So we have resources for each locality in Northern Virginia that are alternatives to calling the police. So if you find yourself in a situation where you're tempted to call 911, or you might think, well, that's the only number I can call, there are a bunch of other resources that you can potentially call to, I'm going to put this link in the chat too for you, to access a resource that is not run by the police, that is not the police. So that's the link for Arlington, bit.ly/Arlington County Safety Beyond the Police. If you click that, it takes you to a list of resources, and there's also at that link a set of printable flyers that you can print off and distribute around your neighborhood, to your neighbors, in coffee shops, wherever you feel like distributing them. But there's basically, the resource walks you through, there's kind of a flow chart on the flyer. There's steps to ask yourself before calling the police, like, can I put up with this? Is this just an inconvenience? Do I need to respond or not? Can I handle this on my own? Can I talk it out with the person? Can I consult a neighbor? And so it kind of walks you through the process of, do I really need to call the police? And then if I really need to call someone, maybe I can call someone that's not the police. So there are resources for mental health emergencies, substance use, food and shelter, mediation, victim support, sexual assault, runaway youth. And at that link, you'll be able to read all about each different resource to figure out if it's the right resource to call. So that's a bit about what we do. And I know that's like a long, like I said, a long timeline condensed into a couple minutes, and I will turn it over to whoever's next.
Thank you, Courtney. Thank you. And to your point, everyone on the call, we're going to be on time, but good context to lead us to where we're heading, right? You can see this kind of like timeline, right? You talked about a snowball effect of policing, right? And where we are today. So this brings us to current day, current time here in Arlington. We have Ben Wong from the ACLU who's in, and I think Ben probably knows a little bit about, where we're at in Arlington. We're at the crux of this ordinance. What type of ordinance we're going to end up with, we're not sure, but can you provide a little bit about the ACLU's perspective on civilian review boards, civilian oversight, excuse me. We want to get away from review. We want to see civilian oversight of the police. Can you talk a little bit about that, Ben?
Sure, and thanks for having me. And thank you for your presentation, Courtney. It reminds me of one of my favorite quotes from William Faulkner: "The past is never dead, it's not even past." So I feel like it's very apt for your presentation. And my remarks will not be as sweeping or substantive as Courtney's. It's an honor to be here. I'm a policy analyst at the ACLU of Virginia. And yes, we support civilian oversight, to your point about the importance of language. And we support it because it fits into our larger vision here at the ACLU of Virginia, which boils down to just like a simple premise that government should be accountable to the people, and police are a part of that. Police should be accountable to the communities they serve. They should be answerable and responsive to their needs. Communities should determine what safety looks like to them and what role police do or do not play in creating it. And police should be transparent about what they do and why they do it. They have to earn the community's trust. And when they break that trust, they need to be held to the same ethical standards that other government employees are, and face real disciplinary consequences for their misconduct. And so that is our vision, and that is not what we see in contemporary policing or historic, as we've seen. I'm preaching to the choir, but the targeting and harassment of people of color and police violence are persistent and ubiquitous problems. And that wouldn't be a problem if police were actually genuinely accountable to the communities they serve, and every community member, not just those who are privileged, those with power. And so we at the ACLU Virginia definitely believe that civilian oversight of police is one important way to equip communities with a tool to have a say in how their neighborhoods are policed, and to address officer misconduct on an individual and departmental level. But I guess we're all about nuance and caveats, and we do support civilian oversight, but not just any civilian oversight. You know, to effectively hold police accountable, any civilian oversight entity should be granted, you know, robust investigative and disciplinary authority. They need to be inclusive of people who are directly affected by policing practices. They need to be adequately staffed and funded, and they need to be genuinely independent from police and politicians. The whole point of civilian oversight is to solve for this inherent conflict of interest that you get when police departments investigate their own wrongdoing. And so those are sort of not an exhaustive list, but some of our top priorities when it comes to implementing civilian oversight at the local level. And then, you know, I guess two more quick points that I feel is important to mention here is that another position of ours is that every law enforcement agency, not just police departments, also sheriff's departments that do routine law enforcement should be subject to civilian oversight of their policies and procedures. And it's just important to note that the law, that the enabling statute does carve out sheriff's departments, and that is something that deprives 3 million Virginians of a meaningful voice or role in deciding how their local law enforcement policies are written and applied where they live. And then the last thing I'll say is that civilian oversight, strong independent civilian oversight, can definitely bring about much greater accountability for law enforcement. But we are also all about packages of solutions. And so it would be great if civilian oversight were also complemented by other accountability measures, like creating a state cause of action for victims of police brutality to sue officers in court, making sure that officers with a pattern of excessive force and racist behavior lose their badge and do not just hop from department to department. And then we also want front-end accountability, you know, preventing the harm in the first place, not just investigating harm after it has been done. So that looks like reducing unnecessary interactions between law enforcement officers and vulnerable populations, people of color, people with disabilities, people with mental health disorders, and finding alternative solutions to Courtney's point, where we're not reliant on government agents that can legally use deadly force to handle. So I'll leave it at that, but thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Ben, for giving your ACLU's perspective. I want to go to Heather and then Kim. Heather, do you need us to bring this back up, the screen? Or are you just going to talk to it so the members?
No, I can. You can bring it up. I've got it here for myself, and I'm not going to read it. So the link is, if you can relink it so that everyone can have access to what the Arlington NAACP sent to the county board members. Let's see, back about a week ago, a little more than a week ago, we had, after a lot of work, we wanted to bring back into the discussion the recommendations that were made by the police practices group after months and months and hours and investment of county resources and individual resources from interested community members, and the portions of the community in Arlington who did want to speak on this issue and have spoken on this issue have been pretty much unanimous in wanting to maximize for Arlington County what was authorized by the Virginia legislature last year, when the Virginia I believe Delegate Hope is actually on this call, and Delegate Hope was led the charge in the House of Delegates and was instrumental, I think, and hopeful. And Delegate Hope can speak for himself. Hopeful that Arlington would take the lead on this, and I think we owe it to ourselves and our community to do what the legislation authorizes us to do. And unfortunately, what happened, for those of you who have not been up to speed on this, is that after the police practices group did all the hard work and made all the recommendations, the county manager prepared a draft ordinance that has two components to it, one component is the county manager's recommendation for a community review board. And then there's a separate section that more closely reflects but does not incorporate all of the recommendations from the police practices group. And it is highlighted as not recommended by the county manager. And for the folks who are on this call who don't really have a full working knowledge of how the county board operates, the county manager is an employee of the county board. It is answerable to the county board. It is the county board members we need to speak to. The county manager's not going to be convinced that he is wrong. He's not going to be convinced that his vision is not the one that the community wants. What is in the second part of the ordinance that has been advertised and is up for discussion tomorrow night, please come, call to action. Please sign up to speak tomorrow night. It's very important. If you can't come tomorrow night, email the board members, call the board members. They need to hear our voices on this subject, that what we want in this county is what the legislature authorized us to do, and that is to craft a new vision to evolve our oversight of our police force in this county so that we have community involvement by way of oversight of serious police misconduct allegations, not community review board. We want what is authorized by the legislature, and that is a community oversight board. And the difference, as JD and I have said to each other and to others many times, words matter, words matter. And here, the word oversight board, as opposed to review board, is super important. It means that the members of the community will be trained to go through thorough training in order to learn how to investigate and make recommendations for discipline for serious police misconduct allegations. The way the county manager, the recommendation by the county manager essentially leaves in the hands of the Arlington County Police Department a shrouded investigatory process with exclusive authority to make disciplinary decisions. And then after that investigation goes on for as long as it goes on, then the chief advises the community review board of the decisions that have been made and the investigation that has happened. And only then does the community review board have the opportunity to say, hey, great job, or, you know, you might need to go back to the drawing board. And all the board would be able to do under the county manager's recommendation is to say, we suggest that you do more, and we can get subpoenas to ask further questions, but then we aren't able to actually, the board isn't able to actually effectuate any outcome by way of those subpoenas that we can request. So in the link that JD has provided, our markup, we took the opportunity to edit the second part that the county manager did not recommend, to restore some of what the PPG had crafted, and that includes reserving for the Community Oversight Board the ability to do the initial investigation and to collaborate with the police chief to make recommendations for, at least to make recommendations for discipline. If we were to have the full robust ordinance that the legislature envisioned, we have the flexibility to do, the ordinance would have to be re-advertised, because we can, the way the process works, we can only tweak the language that has already been advertised. So they either have to change the language in the second part of the ordinance along the lines of what we have suggested. And just so you know, it's not just the NAACP in Arlington that wants this language. This is reflective of the entire community. And what Takis said, I believe he was here earlier, in the last listening session, was that unanimous voices, every single email he got was in favor of community oversight and not merely review. So your call to action. Your call to action.
I got it, Heather, and you on a roll. I want Kim, and I want to hear from. I know Delegate Hope has been with us for a minute. I want to give Kim 2 minutes, because you sat on that PPG. I know the hour is late. We're right at the end time. Kim, what was your observation in about 2 minutes? What do you hope happens here? And then, when you're done, Delegate Hope, just give us your quick thoughts, so we can go ahead and wrap this up for today. And we'll hear from our VP again. Kim?
Sure. So someone just put into the chat that having an oversight board is absolutely essential to creating the ACPD culture change that we so desperately need. I 100% agree with that. One thing that struck me in the county manager's recommendation was when he said that a civilian oversight board, and you have to forgive me because I don't have the exact language in front of me, but he basically said that it shows that the community doesn't trust the police. And my thought was, well, why doesn't the police trust the community that they serve? That's so very important. And that's something that when I sent a letter to the county board and I said that's pretty vital, that the police has to trust the community that they serve. And I think that the Civilian Oversight Board is this. This is what it's for. It's a check and balance is exactly what it is. As Kent can tell you, our work's not done. We thought we were done in January. We're actually reconvening. The county board asked us last week to look at what does an investigative authority look like. And so we're going back to the drawing board specifically on that. How is this going to work? And so my hope when we come out of it is that we do have a robust investigative authority, that it is a civilian oversight board, not a review board. A review board is just not enough power. And for me, it really shows a lack of trust in the community. It really does. And I find that so incredibly disappointing.
Thank you for your service, Kim. And I know you and Kent both went for 8 months on that committee. Delegate Hope, any words you want to say, share with us before we wrap up here today? And I really appreciate Courtney and Ben being with us tonight. Delegate Hope.
Yeah, I mean, just one thought. I want to thank you for pushing this so hard. We were very deliberate about the authority that we wanted to grant to localities to do this. The House position was much stronger. Ben talked about this when it went to the Senate. It got changed a little bit, but it was the minimum level of power and authority that we wanted to grant to localities. So it's the bare minimum that we want to see when these oversight boards are created. And they're really about two concepts. One is transparency and one is accountability. Not just one or the other. We expect to see both. And I would hope that the authority that the General Assembly granted to localities, especially Arlington, is we would take advantage to the fullest extent possible that new authority granted.
Thank you, Delegate Hope. Courtney, Ben, any final words? Give you a minute each before we go to our first VP to wrap up this not listening session, but this little powwow. Courtney, we can go with you for 2 hours, but go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of these are really important points. I will be very forthright in saying that SURJ is an abolitionist organization. So, but I understand, that there are steps along the way. But I mean, I think for us, and I think for anybody, I think it's just always good to ask ourselves, like, why do we really need policing? Why do we really need all of this? I know this is also a discussion about accountability for the police and transparency for the police that do exist, but also just like, what would it mean to build a world where people's needs were met so that we had a totally different structure where this kind of policing of people of color was not, an over policing of people of color just didn't happen. It wasn't necessary because like we took care of people's needs. I challenge everybody to think that way too, to think like what would a world where everyone's needs were met and police weren't necessary look like?
Yeah. Thank you, Courtney. Ben, real quick, and I'm glad our co-chair, we do have another topic real quick there's another opportunity on Thursday about SROs. We've been working about removing SROs out of the school system. So there's another opportunity for us to engage in that. But go ahead, Ben, real quick. And I threw the link here in the chat document we sent. But go ahead, Ben.
Well, it's just an honor to be on this panel. I couldn't say it better than what Heather, Courtney, Kim, and Kent said. So we just follow the leadership of people who are doing the hard work like y'all in communities across the Commonwealth. And so we'll be watching closely. We'll be rooting for you. And thank you for too.
Thank you, Mr. Price, VP, and then I'm going to go to Sheree and Simone real quick about SROs. Kent?
Hey, thank you, Mr. President. Thanks for all the panel members. I appreciate the education piece and everyone who participated. And just so you guys know, we wholeheartedly agree with Delegate Hope. In the PPG group, we tried to give the full extent of the statute. We tried to include the sheriff piece. We tried to include disciplinary action, everything. So just so you guys know, we're still trying to push, that agenda and make sure that, we give it as much authority as possible. So thank you guys.
Thanks, Kent. All right, everyone. Also this Thursday, we have the school board that is going to take up for a vote SROs in the school system. Both Sheree Kearns and Simone Walker sat on that work group for an extended period of time. We dropped earlier the link and the sign up for that on as well. But Sheree and Simone, y'all have a few things you want to say about what our members can do on Thursday prior to? You're muted. Both of you are muted.
You're muted, Simone.
The school board had authorized the SRO work group that was it was comprised of 48 community members and an equal number of pro-SROs, anti-SROs, and undecideds. We met for 6 months, studied the issue, had the benefit of having SROs as part of the work group, advising us, answering questions. And the bottom line is the 48-member community work group recommended that SROs be removed from schools, along with a number of other recommendations for just reforming the way APS does business and how SROs interact with the school population. The school board is supposed to vote on this on June 24th. If Chair O'Grady is here, maybe she can say something to that. But we are asking for a call to action to have people write to the school board or call in to speak at the board meeting to urge them to accept the work of the work group, the hard work of everyone on that committee, and to accept the recommendations. That's the call to action. Sign up to speak or write into the school board. And JD put a document in there with instructions on how to do that. We know that there are going to be people lobbying to keep SROs in schools. But APS is committed to social emotional learning and restorative practices, and the police presence in school is antithetical to all of that. The NAACP's position at the national level is that SROs do not belong in schools. So we ask that you join in this call of action. Thank you.
And for anybody who wants a little bit of background, APS has had police officers in the school since 1969. We learned in the work group that one of the first police officers in school was one of the first Black police officer in Arlington. And they ended up throwing him, well, not throwing him, placing him into a school where there was significant racial strife. So he was put there to kind of try to quell the tension that as the schools were desegregating. So what we know is that this program has been in place in the schools since 1969, unexamined until 2014. It is absolutely time. You know, we couldn't find a solid reason besides the fact that people had these emotional ties to police officers for them to be there. So please call, show up at the school board meeting, send an email. It is very important that we communicate. If we are a progressive community, if we are a community that cares about its citizens, then criminalizing minority kids has to be something that ends, and that ends as soon as possible. So please support us in this, and thank you. We really appreciate it.
Okay, well, thank you. So tonight we had a lot of presentations, and there's a couple of call to actions. We heard our SRO piece, and tomorrow night's listening session. The links have been shared multiple times tonight. We focus heavily a lot on the Civilian Review Board because that's tomorrow night. But listen, we need your help, right? When we went last month, and spoke before the board, in so many words, people had said, well, we haven't heard from the community. And I started scratching my head. I said, well, we haven't heard from the community. So for 7 months, we've had all these engagements, paid facilitators, meetings. And it's like, I really didn't understand it. But then again, I do understand it. We're in this moment. We need you to show up and show out, participate in our call to actions for both the SRO and the joint letter we did with Arlington for Justice. Just for an administrative note, the executive committee will be meeting next week on Sunday. Next month for our meeting, we will not have any presentations. It will be our committees giving their reports. We didn't have any committee reports this month. They were shared with members, so you can see what they're doing. Next month, there will be verbal presentations by the committees, followed by the month of August, where we will be taking the month off for a break. All right, everyone needs a break. So with that being said, we're a little bit over time. I will stick on for a little while longer, but this, ladies and gentlemen, concludes our meeting. Thank you for attending.